All right, it's episode 96. It's the day before Halloween, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about, kind of continuing on what we were talking about last episode, our rant in general about electronics, but not necessarily a rant, just talking about it, how electronics are, the electronic versions of analog things are having a larger and larger effect on just us in general as humanity. But Dasher's going to talk a little bit more about his music stuff, and we're also going to deep dive into 1 Corinthians 6 on Deep Dives episode 96.
Josh, today is Halloween Eve.
Yes.
2025.
Which is funny because Halloween is called All Hallows Eve, isn't it?
I don't know.
Oh.
I'm not sure.
So All Hallows Eve.
But I wanna put on my costume. Yeah, I'm an OG.
Now you're a bro.
Now I'm a bro.
I was gonna try to go to one of those Spirit Halloween things and pick up some ludicrous thing to wear on today's episode, but I just never got time to do it because Tuesday nights I'm helping in a Bible study. Wednesday nights we're at church. Mm-hmm. Thursday morning is now. Mm-hmm. It's just like every day there's something that takes me away from all those things.
The closest I got to it was going on Amazon and looking at hats with mullet hair.
Yeah, I
really would like to have gotten one of those, but it was too late before I really. And Chris didn't dress up either.
No, he's got his normal everyday wear on. He's actually started a diet too. He said, "How's that going?"
Yeah, I started this new diet. It's great. 7 days I've been on this diet, and it's worked wonders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I guess says I'm a little paler, but.
Well, I can tell
I feel all right. No beard, no worries.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm doing pretty good.
That's nice.
All right, now that we got that over with.
Yes, we did.
Chris has been sitting there for a half hour going, no, I'm fine. I'm not hot. I'm not
hot. I can't see. I didn't have my glasses on.
You could hear him breathing.
Okay. Anyway. He had three costumes: the skull, the face thing, and the Darth Vader.
This is
breath.
the one you got to worry about.
All right. So it is. It's Halloween Eve, and I was telling you all the other day about my neighbors across the street who, they decorate for anything. Christmas they decorate. It's nothing about Jesus, but it's all It's lights and everything, but no joy or nothing. But listen, Halloween, they got it going on, man. They got a big, it's at least 7 foot tall statue out front that has a moving sensor in it, and whenever you go by, it says different things.
Oh yeah, you were gonna go try to listen to it more closely.
I just never had the motivation. Every time I was out there, I was doing. So I don't really care to see it. I mean, it's fine. I call it cute. It's cute.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. But I think I told you all the day. I drove into my driveway and I started having a Meniere's episode, and it felt like my body just went like this. So I sat there for about 15 minutes. And so I heard what it was saying, and it was saying something about 4 souls going to hell, and it's like, man, this is not just Halloween, and it's just this really satanic stuff that it was saying. I was like, oh boy, if I could move, I would go in my garage and close the door. But right now, there's nothing I could do. So anyway. So it's really good. They've got there's a water drainage in front of their house, and they've got looks like a pallet on top of it with little skeletons coming out of it, hands coming out of it. They spend a lot of time, making it happen. And I just put an orange light in my front porch. Christmas comes, I put a red light or a green light. Whatever. It's easy to, decorate and undecorate that.
If you just put one of those adjustable multicolor LEDs, you don't have to change
There
the
you
bulb.
go.
Just
That's
flick the
right.
switch.
Press the button.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, anyway, so this week, being Halloween, I thought I would try some new music, some darker side music. This is
Blue Oyster Cult, Don't Fear the Reaper.
See, now that would be appropriate. That would be good. This band is, you may have heard of it before. It's called, let's see, Metallica.
What?
Metallica. Anybody?
Are you having a stroke?
Me. Are you having an episode
I
right
am.
now? Metallica.
Oh, Metallica.
I've listened to, this is cryptically called the Black Album. Metallica.
Yeah, I can't even image that one.
It's just black. It's got a snake on the bottom right corner. That is it. It's got a curled up snake on the bottom. It's affectionately called the Black Album, and it's one of my favorite Metallica albums. If you've ever, I think it was Virginia Tech, their football team. Whenever they come out on the court, their intro music is Enter Sandman. Mm-hmm. And as an engineer, Josh, I know you can appreciate watching a full stadium of 21, 19, 20-year-olds jumping up and down in unison to one song. I'm just watching this going, there's no way that thing's going to hold up. I mean, I hope they have made that thing really well, because it's scary, because every one of them are doing it.
Yeah.
Every one of them. It's such a great intro song. It's so deep and so hard. They do it, man. It's gotten so popular that Metallica came there and did a concert. Because they learned that Virginia Tech was using there, and they came and they did a concert, for them. So anyway,
You'll be interested to know this when you're designing like stadium seating or bleachers or whatever. There's always the weight of the people, and that gets bumped up because it's a lot of people and they're always moving and stuff like that. But there's also required like this sway load. And so it, like, depending on what the length of the bleacher is, like every linear foot of bleacher seating, there's so many pounds that you're supposed to assume goes this way,
Okay.
and there's so many pounds that you're supposed to assume that's going this way, and they're not the same, because some of the songs you're like doing this, and it's more violent, but some of the songs you're kind of swaying back and forth side to side, and it's not as violent. And so I think that's interesting how somehow in the math of the design we've encapsulated a little bit of human personality.
that's good. My fear is straight up and down. For sure, there's something to do with that too. For sure, there's some give and take
absolutely,
with
yeah.
straight up and down, because these kids are going straight. Have you ever seen it, Chris?
No,
Just-
I've never seen.
This Saturday, I don't know. Go on YouTube and just look at intro of Virginia Tech football, and just watch it. And just the camera will go around the 360 degrees sometimes, and every kid is jumping up and down.
Yep.
Man, it's unbelievable.
Well, think of the more of a historical perspective. Think of the stadiums where the gladiators were in the precursor to that, and everyone's getting excited, and they start playing "We Will Rock You" over the loudspeakers, and everyone's
that's what
just
they
jumping
did.
up and down.
Yes, sir.
He's been watching Pepsi commercials
That's
again.
it. That's it. Well, last week we talked about technology,
Yes.
and
Well, before we get on that, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Because it has to do with Halloween and Metallica. Halloween first.
yeah,
What are your thoughts on Halloween?
I don't bother with it. I don't. It's nothing that excites me. I look at it very pragmatically. I don't want people coming to my door, and I'm not going to go to anybody else's door. That's all there is to it. other than that, the spiritual, I'll just call it the spiritual side. I don't ever, I grew up and I've learned that I'm not scared of Halloween. It just doesn't do, I'm not interested in opening up any door that has anything to do with celebrating the dark side. Mm-hmm. And having a full day of that doesn't interest me. On top of that, pragmatically, people walk around with masks on and they can get close to me without me knowing who they are. Doesn't interest me at all. And I know that people take advantage of that, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm a criminal and I have permission to go up to every house that I want to go up to, get close to them, man, I'm taking advantage of that. They're going to open the door for me? Yeah, I'm going to be there. Mm-hmm. So I don't even want to open the door literally to that.
Yeah.
That's all. That big demon thing that my neighbors, I look at, go, that's really cute. Mm-hmm. And I go on about it. I look at it not as a waste of time, but if it was less of a dark spiritual devil type of celebration, I might be for it. Fall celebration, sure, why not?
Well, yeah, I grew up. The church I went to was all about like, we're not going to do Halloween, but we'll do a fall festival.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And I always thought that was kind of funny because what do you do? What do you typically do at a fall festival? Like, well, we're gonna make it fun for the kids. We'll dress up in costumes and come to the church. Mm-hmm. We'll, have candy, all this stuff. I'm like, what are we doing different? We're doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And, because people would come and, sometimes we get creative and like dress up as a Bible character or something like that, Mm-hmm. But I always thought it was funny, like how churches just in general approach Halloween, because I think there's a common acceptance across churches just in general that Halloween's not the most spiritually upright thing to celebrate, especially given its tradition. But anytime, for me, just personally, anytime you celebrate death, anytime you celebrate or give cause to celebrate things like demonic activity, or like the thing across the street from you, as stupid as it is, 4 souls to hell. I mean, that's kind of a deep, theological concept to just kind of have advertising in your yard to random passersby. I think where do you draw that line between? I guess interaction with darker things you don't fully understand, either the theological implications or just the reality of these dark entities that you're sort of just accommodating for a day, and I've never really been comfortable with that. But like you said, it's not something I'm afraid of. I remember when my wife and I first got married, we lived in this apartment complex here in town, and for a couple months there was a couple that lived in the apartment right above us, and they were the kind of neighbors that were loud at 2 a.m. and stumble back drunk and have friends over from I think they're in the Navy or whatever, and they would see prior to I lived there for about a year before we got married. And and that's when they were there. And every Sunday they'd see me walk out the door with my Bible, on Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night they'd see me walk out the door with my Bible again. So they knew I was a Christian. I was a church, active churchgoer and everything.
Had your pocket pin protector and everything ready to go.
Yep. And and so I came back one night, and they had scribbled on the sidewalk right in front of my door this pentagram.
Nice.
And said, "Satan loves you."
Nice.
And one of my other neighbors was just getting so bent out of shape about that, which I appreciated because he was kind of looking out for me too. But I don't know. I looked at it and I just kind of chuckled a little bit. I'm like, these guys have no clue. my side's a lot stronger.
Right.
And like it didn't really faze me much because of the confidence I have in my Savior and the Creator.
Right.
And that's kind of how I approach Halloween. Like it's not something that's frightening to me, but it's also something I'm not gonna like consciously accommodate.
Right.
In terms of like celebrating the death and the demonic activity and the spiritual darkness and all that kind of stuff that comes along with it.
I often wonder if somebody who feels the need to do something like that, or to, by the way, my neighbors have kids too. There's at least 5 kids between them and the other neighbor to the right of to the left of them, to the right of me. So all that's there for the kids too.
Yeah.
4 dark souls going to Satan. That's all there for the kids. I often wonder, if you're writing something on the sidewalk about Satan loves you, is it because you don't really believe that there's a Satan? I tend to think more towards that than I think they really want to think. They want to tell you that Satan, the devil, loves you. I don't think they really believe that there is a Satan.
It was just a stupid thing that they probably did when they were drunk.
Trying to freak you out. Yeah. Trying to get a
this will be funny. I didn't do anything. That was the only time it ever happened.
Yeah.
I think they realized I wasn't really the reactionary type.
Right. You didn't bite on it. Yeah, I'm the same way. I hadn't always been that way because I haven't always had the confidence in my faith that I do now. Now it's whatever. I'm glad the kids.
I thought it was cool that they chose me to pick on.
Yeah, how about that?
It's like, hey, they know I'm different. That's cool.
Must be doing something right.
Yeah, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my take on Halloween. We pragmatically. We have candy ready, but in
same. Yeah, if someone comes to my house, I'll give them some candy. Right.
Now,
I'm not going to be a jerk.
I've got many firearms at my reach during Halloween. I've got my AR and I've got what I always have with me. I always look through the door. Now we can look through the Ring camera, whatever. So if somebody's around the corner and they start coming in, there's going to be going to be some resistance there.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's the right way to do it.
Right.
In no way would I go to the door holding an AR, give candy to kids. That's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying.
Might scare some of them.
It might scare some. What in our neighborhood in the past, what usually happens is early on, before it's even dark, you got teenagers coming up. Trick or treat. Man, I'm not going to open the door to a, you know what I mean? Trick or treat. You're taller than I am. You know what I mean? I'm pretty scared of those people.
Grow up.
They they did like I did. They put their hat backwards for their costume or something.
Get a job. Get your own candy.
Yeah. But recently, at least in Pensacola and where my house is and Donna's house is, we don't get any. We don't get any trick-or-treaters. None whatsoever.
Right.
I've lived where I've lived now for 12, 13 years. I've had 0 trick-or-treaters.
Right.
We don't even turn the lights on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just because there's nobody in the neighborhood.
Everybody leaves the neighborhood and goes to I think they go to is it trunk or treat where churches or other organizations.
Well, they know now what the good neighborhoods are. And
right.
So, there's a couple neighborhoods here in town where, all the kids from all over Pensacola kind of converge.
It's funny. They don't go to my house or your house.
Right.
They know where the good neighborhoods are. Or they don't go to our place.
Well, because some neighborhoods, the HOA type neighborhoods, they'll advertise hey, we're a safe neighborhood to go trick or treating. Bring your kids, and they'll make an event out of it.
Now that all being said, I'll say this: I have some good memories of Halloween with my parents. Going trick or treating. I have really good memories. I remember being really hot because of that mask that was on my face.
See, I never went
plastic one,
with a really bad rubber band going around. I was Evil Knievel. I remember that. I had a cape. Man, I was hot. But I love being Evil Knievel.
See, I never went trick or treating. Not that I wasn't allowed to or anything. It just even as a little kid, it's like, I don't want to go do this.
Right.
Go knock
Yeah.
on everyone's door.
You were an intellectual even whenever you were a kid. I mean that in a good way.
My daughter says I was 40 when I was 4.
That's right.
But
I agree with that.
no, I used to go from like kindergarten to 6th grade. The school I went to before I started homeschooling, they would do like a fall festival type thing where they would just load the gym with games
Yeah.
and you could get candy points and tickets
Right.
and prizes and all that kind of stuff. That was a lot of fun. I always enjoyed that kind of thing. But that was it was my school, it was my
Yeah.
friends, all that stuff.
Sure.
I enjoyed taking part in that more than whatever trick or treating I could have done in my neighborhood. And my neighborhood wasn't bad. It wasn't like a dangerous place or
Right.
anything. But yeah. So related to that though, because one of the things you mentioned when you're talking about the album is that you're listening to that because it's Halloween week.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
How does Metallica tie in?
Yeah, that's a great question. That may be a little insight into my psyche that I said that, but it's true. It's true. I said the truth. It's dark. It's heavy. It's kind of a thing, and there are heavy metal Christian bands that still sound like that, but the words are different.
Yeah. So you specifically want the dark words?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't want the.
Okay.
Like anything, I don't know half the stuff that they're saying. Mm-hmm. I make up my own stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hatfield is the lead singer, and it's not necessarily true. Metallica, to me, yes, there are some really dark songs, but there are also some love songs. Mm-hmm. There's one song named "The God That Failed." The God That Failed, and it's about him losing his grandmother. His grandmother. That he prayed and his prayer wasn't answered. Oh, that could be a love song. That could be a Jim Croce song. Whatever. But it's the backbone of it is heavy, right? Yeah. And sometimes I just like that. Sometimes I just like I'm just kind of doing my head like this. I listened to that on the way in today.
Well, that's kind of one of those things that a lot of people struggle with, though, is especially when you're facing grief or loss like that, and a lot of people in those times, that's when they turn to God, and a lot of times they don't get the answer they want, and I think that's an important emotion to struggle with. Especially if as a Christian I want to be able to interact with the world around me, I think it's important to tackle those ideas. Like, why is it that sometimes you pray for something or you ask God for something and it doesn't happen?
Yeah.
Because the Sunday school version of prayer is, if you pray, God will answer your prayer. But we don't often talk about, but sometimes, a lot of times we get the answer we don't want. And that's one of the things that Scripture deals with is, there's a plan that God has, not just for us, but for those around us and just society in general. That in the New Testament, we're encouraged, yes, to go to God and ask for things, but at the same time, to constantly be striving to align our will to God's will.
Not the opposite.
Yeah, because there are times when the path to God's will, and that verse in the Bible says all things work together for good. It doesn't say that all things are good. It says all things work together for good. And sometimes, from our perspective, it's sometimes something we perceive as bad has to happen in order to accomplish I hate to use this term, but a greater good. Case in point, or for example, why is his name leaving me? Job in the Bible, right? A lot of bad things happen to him. But a lot of good things happen to him because of that bad stuff that happened to them. And sometimes we can look at an event like, oh, my car didn't start this morning, and we don't have the perspective that God has, and we look at that as being something bad. But having, if your car had started that morning, maybe what that would have led to was you being involved in a car accident. Yeah. So oftentimes, events that we see as bad in the immediate sense, in the grand scheme of things, end up being a good thing. It might be preventative. It might be something for either your benefit or the benefit of the person that went through it. However, and that's always a little bit difficult to navigate, because you have that Metallica song. It's like he lost his grandmother. He prayed, and God didn't give him the answer he wanted, and so from his finite perspective, it looked like God had failed.
Right.
But did he actually fail? Because we don't have that infinite perspective.
Right.
And I think that's why we're called to faith, and that's why God also calls us to a faith that's based on a lot of historical and empirical evidence that He does have our best plans in mind.
I think especially that's true whenever there's a loss. If there's something that you just don't obtain, okay, you can move on a little bit. But if it's a loss, that's more difficult to overcome, hearing that answer of no or silence or whatever it is. Whenever you lose somebody, especially, it's tough. But that's part of it,
And I think it's important too to really grab hold of that concept that loss to a Christian doesn't mean the same thing as loss to someone who's not saved. Because if for instance my mom or dad were to pass away, yes, temporarily they're not here, but I know I'll see them again. And so like I've lost grandparents that I was close to, and it was kind of a mixture. There was sadness there because they had passed away, but behind that, it's almost like that, to me anyway. That sadness was almost like a false sadness, like a superfluous knee-jerk reaction type sadness. But the real emotion behind it was, I wouldn't categorize it as sadness, because it's like, well, I know they're doing awesome right now, and they're probably looking at me thinking, man, you're gonna flip out when you get to where I am, and it's gonna be awesome. And so, knowing that I'll see them again, knowing that they're, with the Creator that not just made them but saved them, I don't know. To me anyway, having gone through, losing relatives that I was close to, loved ones that I was close to, it's different. It hits different.
So whenever whenever I'm part of this conversations, I always want to bring up the idea of time and place. So I concur with everything that you just got through saying.
Yeah.
However,
now I don't say that to someone when they're going through it.
Whenever you're, for instance, you're walking through the grief line,
right,
and you're shaking somebody's hand, they're
That's
in a better place.
Yeah.
People, please don't
to have
say
a theological discussion.
Yeah, please don't say that. That's not comforting anybody. That's just you saying, in my opinion, that's just us saying something because we don't know what to say.
Right.
And another little lesson, I've gone through a little bit of training on grief training, going through what is it called? The Covenant Hospice. I went through that training. It's okay to be uncomfortable, but don't allow yourself to just start talking and talking and
fill the noise
and
void.
talking and talking. I'm sorry, I love you. I don't even really say, let me know. I would even encourage you not to say, let me know if you need something. Because right then, that's putting something else on that person's shoulders. They already have so much on their shoulders that they don't need anything else. If you want to go over their house and cut the grass without them even knowing it, awesome. You want to leave them some food on the porch, you want to bring out, awesome. But all the stuff that we mean well, just think about it before you before you say it. Think about it before you say it. It may be very well true. He's with the Lord. Yeah, okay. What's that got to do with me right now? I can reach out and touch my best friend's casket right now, and I know that's where he is. But what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
Talk about a good memory that you had with him. Something, you know what I mean?
Right.
For example, Kent and I always loved to go to Rockingham races. He told me that he had the best time whenever us three went to the Rockingham race together. That's fantastic. That's a memory. You know what I mean? That's fantastic. But he's in a better place now. Shut up. That's just my that's just my take on it. But anyway, that if nothing else, I got from that Covenant Hospice training. I got that, and I always try to remember that whenever, in working in a church. Man, there's been a lot of funerals I've gone to, a lot of friends' funerals, a lot of acquaintance funerals, people that I have forgotten have died until I see the picture of them and go, oh, man, I adored that person. That's how many people that we've lost to cancer and everything else. There's this one lady who, you know her, a friend, his husband used to do the lunches at church.
Oh, yes.
The dinners.
Yep, I know who you're talking about.
The lady who died probably, how many years ago now? 10 years ago now?
Something like that, yeah.
She when she was going through chemotherapy, or even whenever she was going through chemotherapy, she knew that this is whenever I was teaching 3 classes on Wednesday night, I would be preparing in my office. After 5, let's see, dinner starts at 5 and goes to 6:30 or 6:15, and sometime in between that times 5 and 6:15, she would walk. Think about where the cafeteria is, where my office was. You can't get any farther.
It's across
away.
the entire campus.
You can't get any farther away in that big campus.
Right.
She would walk with a dinner for me, drink, dinner. She'd walk from the cafeteria to my office to bring that dinner to me. What? I never asked her to do that, but she knew that I was over there doing that, and that was part of her ministry, is just to do. She didn't do it every time because she couldn't do it, but when she did, my gosh, man, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget. And she passed away. And she's one that I forgot until I saw a picture of her. And I went, oh, my gosh, I adored that woman.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
I would wager, and correct me if I'm wrong, that little action that she did probably made it feel more like church than even a sermon did.
Any sermon. She did it just for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if she did it for anybody else. I never saw her carrying more than one. Who knows? She may have had 5 on her, and she gave them to the people along the way. I happened to be the last one.
The furthest away,
Yeah.
Who knows? But you are absolutely right. That made a big church feel small. Now listen, we loved each other and hugged each other and all that stuff, but we never hung out out of church or anything. She could. Her last day, she could barely walk up the stairs to the offices. And those were the times where she was still bringing stuff over to me.
Yeah.
Unreal, man.
Well, it's funny that this came up because it really relates to what I was going to point out in 1 Corinthians 6 today. And I know we're kind of doing this out of order.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, what's order?
No, that's true.
What is our order?
So 1 Corinthians 6... 5, it says, "Know ye not that your bodies are the members of Christ?" And it goes, it starts with that question, and it says, "Shall I then take the members of Christ and make them members of an harlot? God forbid." I mean, it goes on, and we'll get to this here in a second, but that question that it starts out with is really interesting, especially in this context. Know ye not that your bodies are the members of Christ? Because here's this woman who's battling with cancer, and her body is being riddled with cancer. She passed away shortly after that. And yet she is doing this physical act, and it made you not just, it's not just that you appreciated her bringing that meal to you, but when you're just surrounded by obligation and all this stuff because you're teaching 3 classes, you're immersed in preparing for the classes. I know how that is. And then all of a sudden, this woman who's struggling with cancer brings this meal to you. That simple act made that environment feel more like church than even a sermon does. And being in a worship service or whatever. And I think that's such a great application of this concept. Know ye not that your bodies are the members of Christ?
Yeah.
And the contrast that Paul, who wrote 1 Corinthians, what he was drawing here, he said, your bodies are the members of Christ. And then he starts to bring back the issues that the Corinthian church is dealing with at the time, because it's a church. They're supposedly following Christ, but they're doing a lot of things that were characteristic of the city that they're in, the city of Corinth, which was, we have the saying today, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That's kind of how it was with Corinth. What happens in Corinth stays in Corinth.
It was a party town, man.
It was a party town. It was a, alcohol and drug and sex town, all this kind of stuff. And that was, that type of lifestyle was making its way into the church. And so he reminded them, he's like, your bodies are the members of Christ. Should I then take the members of Christ and make them the members of a harlot? God forbid. And that language is really like it should have rang familiar in their ears, because the scripture that existed at the time wasn't the New Testament, it was the Old Testament. And the Old Testament, time and time again, God relates the actions of Israel following after the idolatry and the practices of the pagan nations around them. He constantly used harlotry and fornication and adultery as a metaphor for what Israel was doing following after these pagan gods. So Paul was using that same language, saying, you're the members of Christ. Why are you taking the members of Christ and making them the members of a harlot? God forbid. He's like, what? Know ye not that he which is joined to an harlot is one body? For two, saith he, shall be one flesh. But he that is joined unto the Lord is one spirit. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man doeth is without the body, but he that committeth fornication sinneth against his own body. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost? So he's asking a couple different questions, like, your bodies are the members of Christ. He's like, and also your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which you have of God, and you're not your own. Like, he's reminding them of all this. He said, you're bought with a price, therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. And that's such, so kind of wrapping this whole thing up, it's easy to see, like in general terms, glorify God in your body. Okay, yeah, don't do drugs, don't, those easy kind of things. Glorify God in your spirit. Okay, yeah, go to church, read the Bible, pray, that kind of stuff. But that's usually as deep as we think about those topics. When we get down to the ugly events of life, like losing a loved one or something, or struggling with God, how do you encounter something like that in a way that's glorifying? And I think it ties back a lot with what we talk about in our Wednesday small group, the Gun Club. Because what do we always talk about? We're like, there's certain things you need to address in your approach to firearms. One is you need to practice, because in the event you need to use these, it's one thing to be like firearms for sports or for recreation, whatever, but when you're talking about self-defense, there's so many things that happen all at once that are outside of your control. How are you going to react to them? If you practice beforehand, the likelihood of making a bad decision in that moment is greatly reduced.
Right.
But it's not only that, but thinking about like what you're going to do after that event happens, or how are you going to deal with the fallout of those events. Practicing those scenarios and thinking through the ideology, the philosophy, the strategy of that helps better prepare you for when the real event happens.
Right.
You still might not survive the real event, but the likelihood is there that you will. And I think that ties into this. How do you go through those difficult times when you struggle with God or you struggle with something that happens to you in a way that glorifies God in our spirit? And I think it goes back to, how are we preparing for those times before those times happen? Are we, what kind of media are we consuming? What type of friendships are we developing? What kind of spiritual habits are we developing? Because all of that stuff and more, what is our prayer life like? What's our approach to, daily devotions or Bible reading or study or whatever? All those things tie together and help us, not just when times are good, but when times are bad, to still glorify God in our spirit, because we've already established this relationship and this habit of interacting with God that is now going to govern when we deal with those difficult decisions, and even decisions that aren't difficult, like how do I give to my church, or how do I share in a small group, or how do I witness to a friend, or how do I respond to a friend's loss at a funeral or something like that. It comes back to, how are we glorifying God in our spirit when times are easy versus when times are bad?
Josh, how would you respond to somebody listening to what you just said? And whenever we talk about our gun club, which is called Hollow Point, how do you talk about all that stuff in a gun class? Mm-hmm. How do you do that? How do you respond to that?
Well, our small group is weird.
Yeah.
And not just in our church, but I think it's weird across the board.
It is. It's unique.
Because people have told me that.
Yeah. Mainly because you and I are there.
Right. And we usually have an hour on Wednesday nights, and our small groups in our church coalesce around areas of common interest. And ours just happens to be, we all like firearms. And whether it's firearms for hunting or for recreation or for self-defense or for competition, just all those things come together, and we're just a bunch of people that like guns, but we're all Christians, and we're there not just with a common interest to talk about firearms and learn more about those related topics, but also to dig into Scripture together as Christians. And so what we do in our small group is we divide it in half hour guns, half hour God. And the first half hour talk about gun stuff, anything under the sun that could be related to guns, or even adjacent topics to guns. Like we did the History of Modern Warfare series, and we did a whole series on the development of archery, the precursor to guns, things like that. Or the ideology of the Second Amendment and Federalist Papers and all that kind of stuff. So any kind of topic that's anywhere near the area of guns, we talk about. But then we transition over into a Bible study for the next half hour, and we're finishing up a series right now about our church's statement of faith, not just what that statement of faith means, but how do we get from first century apostles writing the New Testament to 2025, a Baptist church putting a couple statements on their website that are based on those writings in the first century. And so tracing our lineage from those apostles to the first councils of the church, and how those different elements of the church started to develop and split, and all that kind of stuff into what we have now in Pensacola.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a good time that we do have, like you said, half hour. It's never enough time for either one. It's not enough time for the gun part, or there's not enough time for the God part. And especially, 'cause I do the gun part and Josh does the God part, especially lately, we have been talking about, and it's a kind of a common theme throughout, envisioning what might happen if somebody breaks into your house. Like you were saying before, practice, you basically said practice communicating with God. Well, we want, and think about what that might look like. Practice in your head what you might do if somebody is robbing you, or how you might act differently if somebody attacks you and you have your children or your wife with you, or if somebody just attacks you. What do you do?
Right.
We've been talking lately about castle doctrine and stand your ground, and I think we've all learned. I know I've learned a lot about the difference in property and in life. You know, how you can act differently in different states, things like that.
Even the difference between property and defensible property.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Perfect example. A car is property. A car with somebody in it is defensible property. That's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how many people on this earth have delineated between those two. I've thought about it, but not that much until we started studying it a little bit, right? Same thing. A tent rolled up in the corner is a tent. If you're sleeping in it at night, that's your castle.
Right.
But the person that's sleeping next to you, it may not be their castle. It might be just your castle.
Yeah.
Like, wow, all these things I've got to think about before I
Right.
pull out my fire.
If a garage is not attached to your house,
Unbelievable.
it's not your home.
That was the big one for me.
Yeah.
Right? If it's not attached, although if it's attached by a breezeway, it is attached.
Right.
All these things you got to think about before.
Yeah.
You know, that's crazy. So that's a great point, Josh. Is practicing communicating with God now. You know, before you're in His presence.
Yeah.
So technology.
Yeah, we were gonna kind of do part two because last episode we really kind of trashed technology.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of a mischaracterization of our opinion overall. Because it's really easy to start talking about where technology annoys you or where you think it's dangerous. And so today, I think two things. One is when things we are familiar with in analog switch to a digital thing. Talk about that, but also, and we've talked about this a little bit too, like the emergence of AI and how we've sort of accommodated that, and what we think the advantages and dangers are.
I'll start if it's okay with you guys.
Sure.
Just from a very recent last night example, during Hollow Point class, we were talking about defensible property and non-defensible property, just like you said. And one of the very intelligent ladies in there said, Destry, do you know if a service animal is defensive property or non-defensive property? I said, I don't know. What a great question. And it was during class, so I told her I had to get the answer and bring it to her next week. And I simply went to ChatGPT, asked that question, and it gave me an outline that would have taken me days to write down. Now, is it true? I'll have to do that research. But it certainly looks like it's true.
Yeah.
And even said at the end, what was it? At the end, ChatGPT is getting even better. Now they'll say, would you like for me to do this? Would you like for me to break it down here? Not only that, but it anticipates your next question.
Right.
Right. And I just had to ask it in natural language. I just asked it in natural. I didn't have to do it like you used to have to do with Google and be really, really, really specific. It anticipates what you want to know. You and I have had this conversation. If you expand that to students, to doctors, to everybody who has access to this, man, it can be dangerous. Now, we don't want to talk about the negative. We want to talk about positive today. So that's one of the positives. I had the answer for her the night before class. Every time I regurgitate something from ChatGPT, I try to say, this is from ChatGPT, so do your own research, right? I feel like we need to do that in order to stay honest about it. So
That's kind of where, though, you fall into the ChatGPT. I'm not a fan of it on a personal level, but it's the point of, is that viable in the state of Florida versus the state of California?
it talks about all that stuff.
That's where
Talks about all that stuff. If you put in Florida, it'll tell you about what Florida. Again, if it's true, you got to do that research, but it will absolutely distinguish between Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and all that.
And I think that's probably one of its greatest benefits in terms of research is that it's a lot quicker at cross-referencing multiple sources than I am, and so, like, while it's dangerous to trust the conclusions from that cross-referencing, it can do it a lot quicker so that you can go back and verify it a lot quicker.
And it'll give you the references.
Yeah, it'll give you the references as well. And so I think that's a tremendous benefit just because it saves you a lot. Because I know just in engineering, one of the biggest time-consuming things when you're trying to solve a problem is finding an appropriate reference.
Starting from zero, it's a challenge.
Yeah,
it is.
And so using those AI tools like that, it can not only reduce the amount of time it takes just to search for a reference or a valid reference, but it will also start to cross-reference those for you so that you can spend less time doing the menial searching task,
right,
and use your time more productively doing the brain task. And I think so. One of the things that came up here recently, Google, they used to have, you know how you can like modify your Google search to like only return results from a specific site or for every site except for this site, or things like that. Or there used to be this thing where you would go up into the address bar after a search and you type ampersand n equals 100, and instead of returning 10 results, it would return 100 results. So you weren't always clicking and clicking and clicking. Okay. And they did away with that. And a lot of people were worried about, well, this is going to restrict AI's ability to search, to do a deeper search. It's going to be limited to the first 10 on Google. But that's not true, because in the background, a lot of these AI searches, when you're doing research, it will do like multi-threaded searches where it'll not just restrict itself to the first 10, but it'll use a Google database. It'll use a different search engine database like Bing or Microsoft Edge or whatever. But it does deeper searches than you can do just by typing it into a search engine.
Okay.
And it can like prioritize government websites or university websites, so that when you do just a random search in a search engine, it brings up it brings up stuff more like by popularity of like how many hits that website has gotten. So you get a bunch of Reddit stuff and manufacturer web pages, stuff like that, depending on what you're looking for. But the AI tools, they can categorize their search in terms of the likelihood that it's non-biased or correct information. So it can restrict itself to like .edu websites or .gov websites or something like that. Gotcha. So I think that's an extremely useful thing, because it weeds out a lot of the like rando stuff on the internet.
Right.
But still, it shouldn't develop a level of trust in us where we just accept by blind faith what some AI thing is telling us. And I think that's where we're going.
Yeah, I think it is too, because we're lazy.
Yeah, we're lazy. And, there's, I think we're already to the point where schools are starting to incorporate AI, not just as teaching tools, but replacing the teacher entirely.
Okay, we don't want to get in the negative.
Right.
But that's a fact.
Yes,
that's a fact. What you're saying. Let me say this about AI real quick. I asked it the other day, what Newton meters can I use, maximum Newton meters I can use on my carbon fiber handlebars on my bike. And it told me between 5 and 7. And it said at the end, would you like to tell me the exact type of handlebars you have so I can tell you the exact measurements?
Yeah. Yeah, because immediately when you said that, in my brain, like, there's a lot of variables there that
Right.
you didn't give it.
Yep.
That 5 to 7 is not a good answer.
Well, I got, I mean, that's, to me, who doesn't want to do a lot of research and not a mechanical, it's valuable stuff
Right.
to have. It is, and I told you that another thing. I guess this is definitely analog, but it's one of the coolest tools I have. I bought it the other day. It's a Pacific bicycle torque wrench. It has all the stuff on it that is on a lot of bicycles, and you set it, and then it clicks, and that's how much torque was on there. Man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Because on the bike, it will tell you on whatever bolt or whatever how much Newton meters or foot-pounds of torque you can put on this to be optimal. Because it's all carbon fiber, so it's got to be pretty,
Yeah.
so it doesn't crack up. So that's positive.
So getting back to the classroom thing, because there was a positive there. I think one of the positives of that, and I will share a slight negative, but one of the positives is in the history of education, especially in the public school system, like, education has been normalized across all students, and there's very little ability to, like, cater the education for this one student and his learning style based on this student and his learning style. I think that's a tremendous advantage for starting to incorporate AI tools into the education process, because it can adjust for the student's capabilities. Where I think the inherent danger in that is you still have to have human interaction, because if you take human interaction entirely out of that equation, then you have a lot of knowledge, but you have no ability to navigate that knowledge in a human environment, and it almost turns you into the robot that educates you, I think.
I'll take that one step farther in a positive way. In a special needs classroom where you have people who are tremendously, they learn tremendously different. Their gifts and talents are tremendously different than the person sitting to the right of them or left of them or behind them. And it's impossible for a teacher to be able to really effectively teach everybody, all 30 of their students, with one assistant in the classroom, especially when one of them needs a one-on-one, but they don't qualify for it.
Yeah.
So you're spending all your time on behaviors instead of really teaching. If done correctly, I can see how AI, if implemented correctly, can really go a long way and reach a point where people can be taught a lot quicker than any teacher can all day, or as long as they have them for their
Think about how
class.
long it takes to become an expert in teaching people with autism, but then how many different level or
Spectrums.
That's why it's called the spectrum.
yeah,
That's exactly what it's
and
called.
so
spectrum.
you can become an expertise, but you're really only an expertise in this one swath of autism, when you might have a student that's over here, and so there's no time or resources to develop an expertise in that.
Right.
But a language model can.
Yes.
A whole lot quicker.
And if education can flip and adjust to AI, the teachers will be taught differently, right? They'll go through training differently, and wonderful, man. Get them ahead. Learn how to use that AI in order to go into your classroom and get a support plan for all 30 of them and start on day 30 instead of having to wait for 6 months to get started on something that that should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah. So that, I think it's going to be a huge advantage.
Absolutely, that's good. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That really is. That's pretty exciting. What other? We could talk about ChatGPT all day, but what other technology do you see in the community that's a positive these days?
Well, so one of the things that we started out talking about was when something goes when there's an analog system that gets remade in a digital version. And you know, the one we talked about last week was your derailleur, right? And there's advantages and disadvantages of that, and you know, for you, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages.
So far.
So far, right? For me, an example of that would, which we also talked about last week, was the like the drafting component of engineering, right? Because you know, in the old style way of you know, straight edge and compass, protractor, you know, pencil, that kind of stuff, that way of drafting, while it was way more elegant than the way we do it now, the way we do it now is a lot more efficient and reproducible. Like, you know, the old, even something as simple as making a copy of a set of plans was an entire process back in the day, because you had the physical drawings that were the master copy, but then you had to send them through this process where you had special paper with a special coating that went through a special chemical bath and a special, you know, a special set of lights that would, you know, darken it and darken certain areas or whatever, and reproduce those.
Sounds like you're developing a photo.
And it was that exactly. It's just a different process, or different elements of the same process.
Yeah. Okay.
And but that's where we get the characteristic blue in the blueprints. There's that reaction between that paper and the ammonia bath and all that kind of stuff. And really old engineers, they still embedded in their memory is the smell of that ammonia in that reproduction process.
That's funny. I bet you have the same thing with photography, don't you, Chris? Developing film,
the
right?
chemicals, and things like
smell.
that. But I remember I did engineering, and so I needed
and
9 copies of something. I had to take it down to a place here in Pensacola. Here's my originals. Be back in 4 days.
Right.
Okay, was it on E Street?
Actually there was that on one, because we actually worked off of G Street was when I was at. It was like I had to go down to E.
Before there was Google Earth and for site plans, civil engineering drawings. Part of the application that you give to the city was not just your civil design, but you had to give aerial photos of the area. That's not a requirement anymore, obviously, but this was before Google Earth and satellite imagery and all that stuff. There was a catalog of historic aerial photos from the 90s that you'd have to go down to the same place that would make copies of your blueprints. They would pull those old drawings out and they would make a copy of those aerial photos, and they were, you know, different bluish hues.
Okay.
It was the same process.
Okay.
And we'd have to submit those with our things so they could see, like, what's the area around it look
What a
like.
change in workflow, man.
Yep.
Good
But
gracious.
I tell you, inhaling that all that ammonia fumes, that's why a lot of old engineers are crazy.
I bet.
So, you know, the process now, though, is so much better. Like making 9 copies now is just print. You know, you don't even have to hit print 9 times. You just click the number 9, click the number print, and you go.
Gotcha. Okay.
And now, especially with digital submittals, I don't even have to print it. I just make a PDF, digitally sign it, email it on. Never have to leave my office.
Man, oh, man.
It's
so
so
much
great.
more to the convenience where now they can just go look at a section on a set of blueprints or something, and they can just and they can expand it. You know, instead of having to sit there and go, if it didn't come in quite right, you know, it's like, what is that? You
Right.
know? So I don't know.
Now, what would be nice is if the permitting authorities knew how to work with digital files and
That'd be
digital
good.
signatures, because that's a whole problem in and of itself. But I digress.
I gotcha. Okay. I mean, was there anything else about that you wanted to talk about?
Sure, but I think that filled up the time.
Okay. You mentioned Google Earth. Now, I don't remember really the first time that I discovered Google Earth, but I bet I was pretty astounded. I bet I looked at my phone and went, "Are you kidding me right now?" Now, was there anything before that, or was Google Earth one of those steps in technology that just blew everybody away?
Well, there's been satellite imagery for a while, but it was never in an accessible format the way it was with Google Earth. Now, there's There's a whole documentary out there about how Google Earth may have stole that from somebody.
Oh, okay.
But regardless of that whole controversy, just the ability of Google Earth to compile all this satellite imagery and make it in a format that's easily accessible to people. I mean, just think about how we've been able to incorporate Google Earth into our Bible study.
It's been a game changer.
Yeah.
It's got everybody on the edge of their seat looking, paying so much attention. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing that Josh takes Google Earth and starts where we're sitting in Marcus Point Baptist Church, backs out, goes all the way over to Israel, and goes down to where you can see the remains of what you're talking about.
Yep.
That's a game changer.
Yeah. It's like this subtle thing in our subconscious that makes us realize this place that we're reading about in 2 Kings or whatever is just as real as the church we're sitting in right this second.
We just took the trip.
Yeah. Yeah, and totally cool.
It's totally cool. And it's one of those things that not everybody thinks about. It's a tool that anybody can use. But as a proven point, Pastor Jeffrey, saw you do that one class, and he said, "Hey, man," like he's never seen it before.
Yeah.
"Hey, man, will you do this for our website? Will you do some classes for our website?" And think about how important that is. You know what I mean? To use that one tool.
He took me over to Teen Challenge, and I did a whole thing on the city of Shechem.
And everybody was paying attention, weren't they?
Yep.
It's just one of those things that you know there's a Google Earth, you know that you're doing Bible study, but you don't put them both together.
Yeah.
You know, and when you do, you go, man, that's beautiful.
Yep.
That's beautiful.
There are positives to all of it. Actually, I've got a little thing. About 2 weeks ago, a very good friend of mine, his son disappeared. They couldn't find him. So he's in Wisconsin. Up there, he couldn't get a flight home. This guy's girlfriend, he said, "Look, if you can't find him in the next 10 minutes, call Chris." So they call me. I go, "Okay, he's missing." I says, "Well, okay, give me his possible routes, whatever." I looked, and I says, "Okay, go to his Google email and ping his phone." We can't. His phone is no. His phone is on there. It says, even though he may have his thing turned off, physically that phone has to ping off of a cell tower.
Right.
I told her how to do it. She calls you back. He's in Okaloosa County.
Oh, get out of town! Wow.
And it took me like 20 minutes, to get her through the process.
That's all. That's fantastic.
Okay, he was fine. He had just left work at 12:30 and decided to drive to Okaloosa County.
Wow.
And so it's like. He calls me when he gets back and goes, "I want to thank you for that." Because he says, "We had no idea, what, who, what, when, where, and why." Right. They thought he had run off the road, or didn't know.
They just didn't know. The point is, they didn't know.
His phone had died, so he couldn't call anybody. But the thing is, it gave me the last pinged location that phone was on at. So technology's not bad. It's another thing that with J. Dell and I, we broke down the side of the road, and we're calling. The roadside assistance. And the girl goes, "Where are you at?" "Pine tree." "Pine tree." "There's another pine tree." I mean, that's all I could give her. We were out there where Bigfoot had to have a green card to visit.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I said, "Wait a minute." It says, I have an app. It's called What 3 Words. This company
talk about that.
This company has taken the entire Earth and broke it into 10-foot by 10-foot squares.
Wow.
Okay, even in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and it might say rabbit, orange, so it gives you 3 words.
Okay.
Every square is assigned 3 words.
Isn't it funny how in the middle of talking you can't think of 3 words?
But it's like, okay, so I gave her the 3 words. It says, we're here, we're at Oak, something, and boom, and the girl goes, "Okay, you're at GPS coordinates so-and-so," and then they could give that to the record driver, and he could put in those GPS coordinates.
Wow, that is...
And come right to us.
Wow. That's just one of those things that, wish I'd have thought about that.
Yeah.
Right?
But to think about to take the entire Earth in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, in the middle of the Sahara Desert, there is a 10 foot by 10 foot square, which is about the size of this room. It has 3 words assigned to it.
That's all. That's fantastic.
If I pull it up
man.
right now
Wow.
and I walk out there, if I walk across the line of that 10 feet, it will actually make me go from this one to this
Wow.
one. If you have your tracking and stuff.
That's
on.
good stuff. That reminds me of a true crime that I saw the other day about a missing senior citizen. It was early on with drones, and very few police officers, police stations had access, and this one did, and they found him.
Yeah.
After that, according to this documentary, there was a whole slew of police stations that got, and emergency responses, first responders. It just exploded on how many drones, DJI and all the other ones, sold to these places. And you think about that, how much manpower that would have took. The helicopter going up and expensive. Not every, you spend, and these were nice drones. These were $5,000 to $7,000, maybe even $10,000 drones. But how much does a helicopter cost to rent or
More
to
than that
own?
per hour. Yeah.
Exactly. And it had heat seeking on it, and the police officer that was running it was walking us through what he did. He could flick it through heat seeking or 3D or whatever, and the guy was laying down in the woods, and he would have absolutely died that night.
Yeah.
Because he laid down to die, and the officer, it was live. The officer, he was in contact with the officer walking through the woods. He walked him right to him. Genius, right? And took that guy out, and he saved his life. Absolutely, boy, what a great testimony to go to your sergeant and go, we need a drone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing. It's just technology in itself is not bad. It's neutral. It's how you use it.
Yeah.
If I
For
have
sure.
a chef's knife and I stab you with it, that's the bad side.
Yeah.
If I take it and I carve up the meat and prepare it into vegetables, then I've done a good thing. I've fed you. So you have to look at technology is itself inherently not good or not evil. It's neutral.
Absolutely. And the minute after that person was found, if that officer was crooked, he could have went to the right a little bit and started spying on this house over here. Right?
Exactly.
Just because of the evil that was in that might be in that person.
Right.
And unfortunately now, if the majority of people that if you mention, have a conversation about them with drones, there's a negative thing there. It's a spy thing. It's something I don't want to have anything to do with. It's not thinking, it's not automatically thought of as a tool to be used in a good way.
Yeah.
But that's why now in a lot of cases they have no-fly zones. Actually, they can geo-fence an area, and if you can't, if like a government facility, you fly, that drone will either hit and fall or it'll auto-return to you.
Yeah.
So they can geo-fence things off, but drones, there's so many things that, if you look, the Amish are still building barns like they did 300 years ago. Okay? So they don't have an adopted technology. But in 300 years, where are the Amish going to be? Because at some point, technology is going to have to affect their life. Are they going to be flying drones to lift their
Well, it's
lift their barn?
not that they're anti-technology. It's just that they're anti as quick of an advancement as we are.
Exactly.
Because a hammer is still technology.
Right.
I had listened to a comedian the other day that said, went to the Amish country, and they don't have this and they don't have this, but they certainly took $1,500. I was able to scan my card
Yep.
for $1,500 for a picnic table.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
They like that technology.
Yeah.
Okay. That's hilarious. Anyway, all right. So we talked about drones.
What makes a sound clip clop clip clop clip clop bang?
What?
Amish
Amish
drive by.
That's terrible.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
All
So.
right. So we've solved enough problems today.
I think so. I think so.
Okay.
We could go on and on. Cell phones. We could talk about. I would. You know what? Here's one thing I want to say. I wish we could do without cell phones. I wish I could do without that. However, since I've had Meniere's, I have called Donna on my watch at least a handful of times whenever I needed somebody, and it was just a matter of how do you spell SIRE? Siri, call.
Oh, SIRI.
SIRI, call Donna, and that's all. That's all. And that's all that it took.
Phone's doing it now.
And that's all that it took. And she was one time it was in a department store that she went this way, I went this way. 2 minutes later, I was leaning in a bunch of a coat rack. You know, when I was looking at coats, because my world was going over and over and over, and I just fell on the coat rack until I said, "Theory, call it," and she came over and took me to the seat and gave me some, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's a positive, man. That's a big time positive. Same thing.
I think it'd be interesting to talk about technology that humanity is not ready for. Not today, but yeah.
AI, I don't think we're ready for that. But anyway, yes.
Because the moment you brought up cell phones, I think there's still a lot about the mobile technology that just humanity in general is not ready for.
Okay. All right. We can do that sometime.
Okay.
All right. What are we at? We at an hour now, Chris?
Hour 15.
Wow, man, y'all talk way too much. I don't know what's wrong. All right. So thanks, Josh, for being here.
This podcast has kind of evolved into just three dudes talking.
You know what it is? It's like Grateful Dead. We have an idea. We have a list, and then we just start, and whatever happens, and somebody starts, Chris starts playing something, and then we get on, and then you start playing. We're like the Dead. We really are like the Grateful Dead. All right, guys. Thanks, Chris. Happy Halloween. All right, Donna, I love you. See y'all soon. Bye.